Why would somebody want to go from one business manager, financial manager, over to you? What's the benefit?
It's a great question because sometimes we're not a good fit for everybody. I always tell my guys, I'm an extension of who you are. In the athletic space, they need to learn about who you are in a short period of time. A lot of these athletes, the tendency is when they sign the big contracts, they always think they're going to get the next one. You're not guaranteed the next one. The average NFL lifespan is about 3.5 years.
What's some of the biggest mistakes that you see a lot of the athletes make with money?
The common mistakes, and the biggest mistake, is always overspending.
Let's get this money. Euros, dollar bills, getting this on out of here. Let's get this money. 1 year, better know I'm on it.
So my guest today is Mr. Joey Feste, who's leading a private wealth management firm called KM Capital Management. He's focused on providing personalized, comprehensive financial services to high net worth professional athletes and entertainers. His team of experienced investment, financial, and legal professionals work diligently to help his clients identify and achieve their financial goals. And he's got an interesting client list here. I can say it, but he can't. We got Patrick Mahomes, we got Drew Brees, and many others. So, Joey, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.
100%. So let's talk about you. So you're a UT guy. You're a Hook 'em Horns guy.
Hook 'em Horns, the real UT.
That's okay.
No for all those Tennessee people. For all those Tennessee people, the real UT. Graduated in 1987.
There you go. So I see also your son, who works together with you in business. He also went to UT.
He did. Good bloodline.
And I presume that when he has a family one day and he's got kids, they're probably going to go to where?
Well, my grandson already does Hook 'em Horns, and he's 3 years old. So.
Done, slam dunk. There's no question about it.
But my other 2 kids went to A&M, so I don't know what to tell you.
I'm an immigrant from the Philippines, so I've always wondered about that. Why? What's the legacy aspect of your lineage going to one particular university over the other?
A lot of times, it's just what you grow up. You go to football games, and you're associated with it. So it's like anything, why do you cut the turkey the same way someone in your family did? You just see it happen, redundancy for years, and it gets ingrained in your mind. And all of a sudden, I want to be a Longhorn.
Very good. So a lot of our audience is aspiring entrepreneurs, or the affluent entrepreneurs looking to get to the next level. A lot of them have this faith foundation about them. So I'm going to ask you, what led you to starting your financial firm, KM Capital? Was this something that you always wanted to do after college, or something you fell into?
Well, I actually worked in the investment business with major firms like Morgan Stanley, and then I was in the business 16 years before I started KM Capital in 2004. So I started KM Capital in 2004, so we've been in business 20 years.
So in other words, you learned from the big shops until you started to create your own.
And we wanted to create a family office the way we wanted to serve our clients. We wanted to touch every area of their financial life. We want to have influence in their life in a positive manner, give role models, but also be able to touch every area of the financial life so nothing drops through the cracks.
Oftentimes guys in this space, they want to work with either high net worth individuals, business owners, celebrities. Your situation, athletes. Why choose to pick a career path working with athletes who are young, got full of testosterone, they're getting paid, lifetime generational money that most people never earn their entire multiple lifetimes, and you got to kind of see them all over the world wherever they're at. You got to meet them wherever they're at. And a lot of guys think it's a finicky market for you to deal with. Why do you have the patience to deal with it?
Because I love the guys. I love being able to work with them. It kind of fell in by accident, had a few guys, and then it just grows. Just like in the athletic space, people, they need to learn about who you are in a short period of time because they go through the draft. Where businessmen, they have all the time in the world. They have people, they're educated, they reach out, they're financially literate, and they're reaching out to people. Athletes, once they know they're going to the NFL, have a short period of time to get to trust someone. And so usually it's an environment where you're brought in. And it just grew on me because I love these young men need to be protected. They need to be, watch over and make sure that, someone is looking after their affairs. And someone actually just to be, besides managing money, just a positive influence. I always tell my guys, I'm an extension of who you are.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. So I'm going to represent you well in the marketplace. I'm not perfect, but I'm going to represent you well.
A lot of your clients, the guys normally at the top of the roster, because not the whole entire locker room makes that type of money, but are your clients generally there, the first or second rounders or high prized free agents, or do you deal with fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh rounders?
Now, mainly first few rounds, and then of course veterans that are looking for different representation. And usually that's a referral. We're not what we call poachers. We just, if someone has an advisor, they're happy, God bless them. Let them stay with your advisor. If there's somebody that's looking to make a change, we'll come in and have a meeting. And those are great because when you're referred from a client, it's just a great representation of how they feel we represent them.
Love it. Obviously anybody can go to your website. And for those of you watching the video, we're going to be putting the links down below of Joey's websites. And you've got a lot of services there that a lot of your competitors will potentially also offer to as well. So if I might ask Joey, why would somebody want to go from one business manager, financial manager over to you? What's the benefit?
That's a great question. I mean, a lot of time it's service and personality. In other words, eventually everybody has the same services, right? I mean, whether when I was at Morgan Stanley, when I competed with Merrill Lynch and different things, we all had the same services. Mm-hmm. So it came down to relationship, came down to service. And I think that's what sets us apart is our ability to serve our clients. We're extremely involved in their lives, every area of their life, like I said earlier. And we care about how they are, not just financially, but emotionally, relationally. Everything's intact and we help where we can. So there's a lot of times in meetings I'll say, if you like this firm, you won't like us. But if you like us, you won't like them.
Gotcha.
And so it's a great question because sometimes we're not a good fit for everybody, mm-hmm. but we love the people we have. We love the people we serve.
Are you familiar with the gentleman named Ed Butowski?
I know the name, but not that familiar.
Yeah, he and I crossed paths in 2009. We were part of a financial reality show. I think it was put on by, first time it's ever been put on. So we were being recruited from different cities to represent clients in different cities, and MSN Money and TD Ameritrade sponsored it. But basically it was during the crisis, and we're supposed to help America. And we were assigned clients for 2 seasons to kind of coach them through what was going throughout the process. And one of them was Ed. And Ed brought in Winifred Tubbs, who was a former linebacker of the 49ers. The reason I bring that up is he's a financial advisor, helps out with the wealth. He's got a massive client list, parallel with yours. But what's some of the core principles that guide your approach in managing wealth for these players?
Well, I mean, not in any particular order. That's a great question, but not in particular order. A lot of it is, fiduciary. We're fiduciaries, so we have to put the client's interest first. But more importantly, as important, it's allocation. Meaning, what is their risk tolerance? What are they willing to risk? What's their net worth? How much do they need to retire? I mean, a lot of the things we do, we take a holistic approach because a lot of these athletes, the tendency is when they sign the big contracts, they always think they're going to get the next one. Interesting. And so you're not guaranteed the next one. The average NFL lifespan is about 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So what we do is we only plan for their guaranteed money.
Got it.
Not just their contract. Because when the public sees a contract, they say, oh, $158 million. Yeah, but only 62 guaranteed. Only 62. But, it's a different, or they'll see 21 million, but only 7 million is guaranteed. Yeah. So in essence, the big APY number usually is not the case. So we plan, how we plan is what is guaranteed. That's what we can plan on because of injury, talent. You might get released or replaced by somebody else.
Well, when Mahomes signed,
that's the niche.
Yeah, when Mahomes signed his big baseball contract, saying the big baseball type contract, it was a massive amount of money. That was that during 2020 during COVID, or was it 2021?
Yeah, he signed it. Right after that.
Okay, because I love his next move, which was being a part owner of the KC Royals. I mean, he reinvested that stuff right away. So what's some of the biggest mistakes that you see a lot of the athletes make with money? And obviously, Ed Butowski, we were on this. We worked for that the ESPN 30 for 30. Broke every athlete. Do you suggest every athlete watch that series to see what some of their
totally. Yeah, totally. I mean, I was on it years ago, but it's really good because it's the common mistakes. Then the biggest mistake is always overspending. And we think about people think, well, an advisor lost me money. Well, if you have $10 million and I lose you $1 million, you still have $9 million. But if you have $10 million and spend 2 a year, you mathematically will be broken 5.
Yeah.
And so it is getting to the honest question of, can we control spending? Because investing, if you're long term, yeah, you're gonna miss some deals. That's life. You're gonna lose. Okay. But in the markets, long term, you're gonna make some money. You can buy a house. You can do those things. But it's your spending that is the Achilles heel, and it takes different forms too. It's not just spending on stuff. It's spending on like even a house asset that might be too big,
Yeah.
or family too much.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I heard that the breakdown was wherever a player signs, get a small house there because you're only there during the season, but you're going back home to wherever you want to be at. Buy the house there.
Yeah, we have the same approach, probably different language. It's like, don't commit to a house where you play until the team commits to you into a long contract. When the team commits to you, buy a house. Until they commit to you, rent something.
Yeah.
You know, because it could be the next year you're gone. Now you own a house in a city you're not living in.
I think what a lot of people don't realize, I think a lot of players don't realize, is that when you finally do get paid in pro sports, we're dealing right now with the decline in the NBA, and they don't get paid until the season actually starts. So,
Right.
Yeah, so they're getting drafted, they're preparing for the draft, they're not getting paid. They get drafted, they're still not getting paid. Right? Preseason, they're still not getting paid. The training camp, they're still not getting paid. It's when the season starts. And so,
Right.
So
I know the front end of the draft on some of these are getting paid because they're getting paid for endorsements, shoe deals, and NIL. But it's the back end of the drafts they're not getting paid, and yeah, they have to wait till that first paycheck comes in, that 1/36th of the paycheck in the NFL, because they're paid over 36 weeks now, not 17-week season.
Oh, no kidding. So there's a gap of them not getting paid, of the 52.
Oh yeah, we call it no man's land.
So
because it's the time where you're not getting paid, but you still have a budget.
and to your point, you're not getting paid, but if you're spending still up here, you're just drained. So what are your suggestions for players in no man's land?
What we do in regards to, if someone has a contract, we plan out a budget for a year, so we have enough in their reserve to get them through no man's land to the next season. So we have their monthly budget set aside, and so now when their paychecks don't come, they have money set aside to cover their budget for the next. If you go to the Super Bowl, 6 months. If you don't go to the Super Bowl, 7 months.
So Joey, are you the one that says no? Who are you? Or someone on the team has to tell a player no if they're overspending?
Yeah, I mean, no's an interesting, way of it's the way everyone asks, hey, do you tell guys no? Yes, I am. No, the advisor's always known to Mr. No. But no only works to the degree someone will listen. And so, that's the big challenge of, hey, I wouldn't do this. I don't recommend you do this. But at the end of the day, we don't control their money. We're their advisors. And so as a result, there's times where something I know, but I want to do it. And so those are the things when you see different people have struggles financially, it's not, I can probably speak for a lot of advisors out there that I compete with. It's not that no one's saying no.
Yep.
It's the ability to have someone listen and say, hey, I wouldn't do this, and not do it.
Joey by no means am I an athlete, but I've had some success in my life, praise God. But I remember buying this big house here in Frisco. I remember buying the Rolls, and I call it the Rolls Royce tax and the luxury home tax, where just because you have a nice house, every contract that comes to your house now to add a premium to whatever they're going to quote you on your air conditioning and your landscaping and your HVAC, whatever. You drive a Rolls Royce, everybody is going to tax you harder because you're going to pay higher for valet, higher for this premium service, et cetera, et cetera. Do you see that happen? I can only imagine what a player would be like because, hey, this player so-and-so is eating at a restaurant. This player so-and-so is buying our car. This so-and-so is. Do you see that happening to players, and to what extent?
Yeah, I think what a lot that takes place is that's why we're involved. Like, we'll help negotiate cars, leases, houses, mortgages. I mean, we're making sure that they're not getting taken advantage of.
Yeah.
In regards, because of that premium tax, everyone thinks that they have a ton of money. And so if it's just because they have a lot of money doesn't mean they're going to be foolish with it. And our guys really are smart. They're smart with their money, and they allow us to go out and do these things to save them money. Because if we can save them $50,000 here or 200,000 on a house, or name it.
Yeah.
It all adds up at the end of the day, which just puts money back in their pocket.
So back to Patrick Mahomes. You're advising. You're his financial manager. When you did sign that big fat
specifically
contract.
talk about clients on this, but I mean, I know you looked me up, so you know he's a client. So I cannot specifically talk about Patrick, but ask away. I'll tell you.
Yeah. So and anybody gets they get re-signed by the team. A lot of rookies and they get the 5th year extension. Now they're signing a massive deal, the next contract. Now they get this big splash of money. How do you start creating that dialogue? Okay, now you got this big splash of money. Obviously, Patrick, you invested in the Kansas City Royals, but how do you break that down? What's that dialogue like? What's that meeting like?
Well, it's the same with all our clients, so I won't be specific about Patrick.
Okay, cool.
But it's just because it's confidentiality
Sure.
is we take a holistic approach of one, knowing who our client is and what they want to do with their life, when they want to retire, what's the responsibility, how many kids they have, and then we break it down to where the guaranteed money, we have a contract projection with guaranteed money, expenses, agent fees, everything, and we have a net number, and then we have a spending line which is open. We say, if you spend this much money, here's what you'll look like in 4 or 5, 3 years. And the only caveat and the only variable to this whole equation is your spending. That's it. And so it gives them a vision. I love giving my guys visions. Like, if you do this, this is what you'll look like. Without vision, we perish, right? So we give vision and then we get to make a choice together, and then ultimately the client gets to make a choice of if he wants to be at that point in 5 years or 4 years and make decisions appropriately.
Are you heavy, Joey, specifically into the NFL, or are you also NBA, MLB?
We have NBA.
NBA?
No one in MLB, but NFL and NBA.
What's the two different caveats of their NFL retirement plan and the NBA retirement plan?
Oh, they're very aggressive and good. Their matches are huge. They have a lot of different programs, from the annuity to different type of retirement and health programs. So both of them are covered very well. I wish we had it.
I noticed some of our clients who are in their 30s, they want to do a rollover and invest in other things, but they can't touch until they're 45 years old.
Yeah, it's like there's different ones for different 39 and a half, 59 and a half, and then like 45 for different programs.
Got it. Yeah, because they want to keep the asses under management, at least there with their buddies. But it's interesting how they're kind of stuck there. When you're looking at a player that is dealing with an injury, like I can only imagine Adrian Hutchinson, who broke his leg with the Cowboys a couple of weeks ago. This is a horrible injury. What's that like? What's that financially look like to a player? Because it's one thing for him to be injured. It's one thing for him to recover. But from a financial aspect, what's the thing that every player has to worry about when that stuff happens? Yeah,
that's the thing that part of our presentation and our conversation with our clients at the very beginning of when we work with them is we're going to manage your money like your next snap's your last snap, because we don't know when that is. And so we had several get hurt this year, and most of them have another year on their contract, so they have some guaranteed money. The ones that don't, it's scary. It's scary because you have a certain lifestyle you're accustomed to, and now you might not get another contract because of your injury. So it's very emotional, but we talk about it, and a lot of the guys that got hurt this year, they're working to come back, and they both probably, 3 of them probably will. So as a result, it's a very delicate conversation, because nobody wants to think an injury is going to keep them from coming back to the game, that they can actually return and play at the same level. And most of them do. Surgeries are good these days, so the medicine's so much better than it used to be. When I blew my knee out in high school, they put me in a cast for 6 weeks,
Yeah, guys are coming back from ACL in less than a year.
The Achilles is most unbelievable.
Yeah.
We're seeing, Achilles used to just almost disqualify you, or patella tendon injuries.
Yeah.
Now they're not. It's just time.
Yeah.
And so it's just it is a totally different ballgame when someone gets hurt, because you're dealing with a lot of questions, internal questions that an athlete has, as you know.
I can imagine, your other client, Tua, the quarterback for the Dolphins. The concussion issues he's had. A lot of people want him to retire. Is that this whole CTE issue? But he said there, I love playing the game. I love the game of football.
Well, Tua can speak for himself. I can't talk about Tua or his medical situation. So, but Tua can speak for himself, and it's good to see him back.
Yeah,
the
100%.
Dolphins need him, and he's doing really well.
What a lot of people don't realize too is that they're paid as employees versus 1099 or just business people. Now, their endorsements and they can have that paid to a corporation, but the NFL, the game check, that can you explain to an athlete who's watching this let's say they sign a deal. What's that look like? Gross pay, net pay? Because I think Eric Armstead from when he was playing with the Niners, he showed the breakdown of his check, and like 50% of his check, and granted he was playing in California, but 50% of his check was gone in taxes. Can you allude a little bit to that?
Yeah, I know Eric, great guy. I worked out with him a few times with one of my clients in San Francisco, and so they almost killed me. There is a big, huge difference in where you get drafted or where you play. Like you said, as Eric is your example, California with the state income tax, double-digit state income tax, New York, Chicago, Illinois, New Jersey, you're starting 10 to 13% behind your equal player in another city, in another town like Florida, Seattle,
Texas,
Texas, Nashville, and Vegas, and so that's every million's $130,000 difference, not including local taxes and everything else. Then you take out the fees. So it is whenever anybody gets a bonus check, let's say it's a $20 million bonus check, we always remind them it's 10, and then we put it as a receivable on their balance sheet as 10, the net number. That way they don't see 20.
Right. I got it.
It's a receivable coming in. They go, well, it's not 20 million coming in. It's going to be net, and I'm rounding, of course. It's going to be 10. So
50%, see half of it.
It's right off the top. You're not going to see it, and I have a great CFO. We do great withholding numbers, so we withhold very well. So we don't underpay, but we also don't overpay. So
yeah. You definitely don't want to overpay, but then again, if you underpay, you don't want to owe the IRS. So what are some creative tax strategies that you have with your clients? Any specific investments? Anything you would put their money into? Any tax codes they can take advantage of?
Yeah, what's interesting about that, of course, everyone goes, why don't you put the money, in a trust, like from the paychecks? Well, no, just to your point, the NFL, it goes because of the collective bargaining agreement and liability, it has to go to the name of the athlete. So there's nothing you avoid those taxes, except if you live in a state tax-free state. But there are tax rates like tax credits and different things, but they have to be for the super wealthy athletes, to take advantage of some tax credits, whether it's solar tax credits or clean air tax credits or historical district tax credits. But that's up to each individual client and their tax advisor to give us that type of tax advice. But there's really it's really hard to. The only way to reduce taxable income from investing, or at least one of the ways, is municipal bonds, right? You get tax-free interest. But besides what I mentioned earlier, it's hard because the IRS wants their money.
Yeah.
And they actually find a way to get it.
Yep. When you're looking at advice, I'm in the life insurance business, and we see a lot of clients not realizing what life insurance actually does. Oftentimes, players from the neighborhoods they grew up in and socioeconomic upbringings, they think that life insurance is only just for dying. And here we have Jim Harbaugh, when he was a coach at University of Michigan, stuffing a ton of cash inside a life insurance policy. I think it was called a split dollar arrangement. But you're a financial guy. Why would certain guys want to use a component of life insurance for tax strategies?
Well, they can, because they can draw the income tax free at any time as it accumulates cash. We use it for a lot for estate planning, right? We, and a lot of our guys, because there are high net worth, they do allocate some to life insurance for sure. It's part of an allocation. I'm not a big, it's everything. It's the whole piece, but there is a piece of it that, for life insurance for sure. And so our guys do it for all those reasons, for investment and estate planning purposes.
We just did a fundraising last night for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. A couple of players there came out, and we were showing them, hey, listen, life insurance, modern life insurance policies today can pay if you were to suffer and recover from a heart attack, stroke, cancer, or in this case, dealing with a situation with CTE or if you're later in life, like Earl Campbell right now, he's having a hard time walking around. But you can have a life insurance policy pay you long-term care benefits.
Right.
And so a lot of players just didn't realize that. And
those riders are really good. Those riders you add to them are really good because they have that little rider that allows you to get those long-term disability and different things like that. Catastrophic, it's nice.
Very good. Is there any areas of specific lack of financial literacy that you see a lot of players have? Like, oh, I didn't know this could be which could be detrimental to their financial future because they're so focused on playing the games, the X and O's of their business. On the field, off the field, there's areas of financial literacy that you would wish more players would pay attention to or be at least aware of.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of our whole job, besides managing money, is I want to give our guys a makeshift MBA over their careers, where they're learning all the time how to read an Excel spreadsheet, how to read a budget, what does a net worth look like, and so understanding basic like net worth, cash flow is really key to us. They need to understand because when cash flow ends the way in the NFL, the cash flow looks different the day after because now you're living off your investment. So financial literacy is big to us. Understanding why we do things, this is the reason we're doing this, and make sure they understand it. But tools that they need to be able to so they're not taken advantage of is risk analysis. But also, where am I? Snapshot, net worth.
Yep.
And what does my income look like for the next year or two?
Yep.
Cash flow. And those two things help us make better decisions than when you're guessing. I was hired by a guy 15 years ago. I got called in by his team, and I can't share his name, but I'll show it to you off camera. I asked, when I first sat down with him, I go, do you know your financial situation? He goes, no. He said, I'm good. I said, in your career of 7 years at that point, have you ever seen a net worth or a state? No. I said, how do you know you're good?
Wow.
And he wasn't. And so we did a forensic accounting on his stuff and found out some really horrifying things.
Yeah.
And so
people's stats.
So that way, net worth and cash flow, backed up by statements, is what I want a lot of our guys to learn.
Yeah, because it's really, really hard. I mean, granted, they're in the top 1% of athletes ever to play the sport, and to get paid this much money and then bust their ass in practice, recovery, you name it, and to know that you can spend so fast, right? There's so many things. There's not a limit on what you can't spend money on.
Right.
You can spend $25,000 at a restaurant just hanging out with your friends. Right, but it's so hard to make that. A lot of people don't ever make that, and so
like I tell my guys, to your point, real quick, if I can interject, it's like if you spend 25, it's 50,000 in earnings. So you didn't spend 25; you actually spent 50 of your earnings. So if you earn $1 million, you just spend 5% of your earnings on this widget, whatever it is.
Yeah. So do you recommend players to take a little bit more conservative, pragmatic approach to, okay, the headlines say you're this, but back home when you're dealing with yourself, you're really this?
Well, that's the contract projection we give them, so they know exactly where they are financially going forward. This is really what you're going to make after taxes, fees, union dues, agent fees, everything, and here's what you're going to make.
Yeah.
And then here's what we recommend you spend. And the delta in that tells you if you're better or worse off than you were when you started your contract.
Awesome.
And so that's what we try to do. It's getting to understand that, like you said, 50,000, 25,000 spending is really 50,000 pre-tax.
That's a profound way to look at it. Let me ask this question. A lot of players now, NIL is a big deal in college. I was just watching a documentary on LSU, because LSU right now is the #1 college for NIL deals in America. The #1 NIL deal there is a gymnast, and she's just killing it. But she's not necessarily a superstar either. But she's your Barbie doll.
Yep.
And she's not even in basketball, she's gymnastics. And she's getting paid $9 million to be not even a starter. Sometimes some meets she sits out. She's not even competing in the.
It's that online presence. It's your online following.
Bingo. So and any guys you would have for college players, college athletes, they might not have people like yourself in their corner, and they should. And I'm also seeing this trickling down to the high school levels, where some of these high schoolers can even get some NIL deals. Texas, you can't, but some of the states, as an NIL high school player playing basketball, you wear their brand, they're taking care of you.
They're taking care of you. NIL's the wild, wild west. You know, I got to spend some time the other night with one of the major Big 12 schools, collective, the guy that runs the collective. It's kind of the wild, wild west. I think, you know, everyone's going to try to figure out. I think the pendulum swing is so big, and then you add the portal. You know, they're going to figure it out over the next few years, I think.
Joe, can you explain? You just mentioned a word there, collective. A lot of people don't understand what that word collective means. People think booster club. Can you explain more specifically what a collective is?
Yeah, the collective is like, you know, for a university, there's a collective of boosters that put in money, and then endorsements and advertising, you know, marketing deals come in, and they get to pick, you know, then a certain athlete would get that endorsement, and there's a collective of money to get there, and also to be able to, I mean, lack of a better word, there's like guaranteed salary. You know, what are you going to pay me to play football?
Yeah, yeah.
And so the big question is this the way we're going to do it? So the biggest, richest universities can have gather like the Yankees. I'm just going to pay for a team, or is it right? Or is it going to work out to where they put limits, or maybe even to the point where all of a sudden you have to sign a contract?
Yeah.
We're going to pay you this much, and you're going to stay here. You can't go to the portal.
Yeah.
But you're going to stay here. So there's less capital at risk. You know, I think they're going to iron all this stuff out, but right now it's kind of the wild, wild west.
Yeah, because a lot of high school players aren't committing anymore because the college coaches aren't taking a risk on a freshman, knowing they can take a freshman from another college, and because they already know what they got, versus a freshman coming out of high school.
Well, I think
there's danger there.
Also, you have to remember the ages. I mean, when I was 16, I made some of the dumbest decisions in my life. And so how is this athlete going to mature before they get to college? And then how are they going to mature through college?
Yeah.
You know, you don't know. There's talent, but is there maturity to handle the next thing? And so they're having to when they go to evaluate high school kids, it's their own combine, actually. They're trying to evaluate talent, relational maturity, emotional maturity. You know, can this athlete handle this and come to the next level and perform?
Yeah. Any financial or business advice you give out there to young athletes? That you say prioritize this or pay attention to this? So
save as much money as you can, because you haven't made it yet. But your reputation and your skill set are getting you paid right now.
Yeah.
But you haven't made it yet. You haven't gotten to college. And if you're in college and you're making NIL money, you still haven't made it yet. You're writing off your reputation and your work of college, but that doesn't mean it's going to transfer to the NFL yet. Plenty of great athletes never make it in the NFL, but that's where the big money is. And so my financial advice is save every penny. You're still in college or high school because you haven't made it yet. You're doing well, but you haven't made it yet.
Yeah, because I run across a lot of athletes who are no longer playing, and they want to get involved in this deal, and they can't because they got no cash. They got no credit, and they can't get involved in it because they blew it. Let me ask you this question: What is there any specific sectors? Are there any sectors inside the world of investing that really excites you? Is it AI? Is it any particular area there that gets you jacked up about upside potential?
Yeah, I can't talk about specific recommendations, but I think our favorite is the public markets. I mean, we love the public market stocks. We love because if we can own, you know, you're not wrong you can be wrong after 3 months, but after 5 to 10 years, as history tells us, you'll be right, you know, for a risk-adjusted rate of return. So we're big public market guys. Most of our guys, we won't do private deals until they usually get their second contract, because that's risk capital. When deals you're talking about, like specific investing into private deals, you got to have the risk capital to do that, because not every private deal works.
So your first contract is preservation money, just to make sure. Interesting.
A lot of preservation money because, one, financial literacy, understanding risk, because you got to understand risk.
Yeah.
I mean, I can explain risk, but do you really understand it? Like in the private markets, we're talking about specifically let's be more specific, venture capital, private equity.
Yeah.
Start a startup, buying it into a company that has specific risk to it that it can go to zero. Real estate, no, they'll do some real estate in the first contract because, especially depending on how much money they have,
Yeah.
they'll do some life insurance, they'll do certain things. But when you look at our bread and butter, it's managing money in the public markets, and which is stocks, bonds, cash, portfolios.
Love it. Love it. I want to shift gears here because you're a man of faith, Pastor Joey. So what advice, especially in this splintered world, especially in this world where people can't seem to make sense of the arguments that's happening, is going on in the world today. I'm sure it's changed a lot since you were in college in '87 and you raising a son. Or is it how many other children do you
I
have?
have a son, Joey, who works with me, and then my son Travis, 32, a home builder here, and then my daughter's 29, lives in Dallas.
Yeah, and then now they're having kids, being raised in a world where sometimes people don't trust. I've asked this question a lot of financial workshops, and we do it twice a week. Do you trust the public school system? I can't have one hand go up. I've been doing this for 2 years now.
Yeah, I mean, I think a general rule, people can just paint a wide brush on public schools, right?
Yeah.
And I think it depends on where you are and who's leading it and what they're doing. Like the public school system, at Westlake and Austin, yes, we try, like here in San Antonio and Alamo Heights, I have offices in both places, great school systems. I think it's school specific versus general public schools, but I think there's a more openness to different things than public schools versus private schools. Because, private schools define, what their code of conduct is and specific what they're going to teach and everything like that. But no, it's a crazy world right now because I think one of the main issues, no one can talk anymore. No one wants to communicate and have a conversation about differences. Like if someone is different, then they're the enemy or they're wrong versus they just think differently than me.
Yeah, Tom Brady this weekend was addressing, Josh Allen. He talking about, because if he acts this way, acts like a spastic player. That got him lit up. And by the way, the talk is common in the locker room. The talk is common on the practice field. You just can't say that in the broadcast booth, and he's getting lit up for saying that word, which he meant no offense by, but a certain community now is well, that word's coming to us. And so, where do you see faith and your players standing up? And you got that the player from Orlando, is it Udon? I'm brain fart. Who did not kneel because he stood up for his faith during when basketball was played in the bubble, and now he's got a shoe line that he's launched. So where do you see faith and finance and entertainment meshing together? Where
I think just like anything, like we have 48,000 denominations around the country, so everyone believes a little bit differently. So, I think one of the mistakes that people make of faith is they want everyone to believe their faith and what they have, right? So so people get to make decisions based off what they believe, and then of course now with social media, they're judged immediately if it doesn't agree with the poster's faith. So whether it's standing up or kneeling or whatever it is, for some, it's their own personal conviction. And what I love is just whether you stand or kneel, and that's such a lightning rod of a topic, right? But whether you stand or kneel, do it with conviction. I can respect conviction, because I can't put my conviction on someone. I cannot do that. And I think I've become much more tolerant in the last 15, 20 years of, okay, I can't put anything that I believe on someone else and then judge them for something that they don't agree with. I think what people need to do is start having more conversations on why.
Do you think Christians are too quiet right now? Faith?
Well,
faith,
I think some are too loud.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Loud and obnoxious and judgmental and angry, and some who have, I think, a key to someone's heart are maybe too quiet. And you can read into what I'm saying. I just so much we're losing so much empathy for people, and we're more focused on what someone might be doing right or wrong and judging that versus the empathetic side of, have you ever been in this person's shoe?
Yeah, okay, for sure.
And then can we have a conversation to discuss what we disagree on? But
Where's that fine line between empathetic and calling out a sin or lack of actually following the word? Because there's that portion too. I'm empathetic too, but bro, sister, you're still living in sin. You're not. If you say you're a believer, you're not following the faith. How does that, in your opinion, how does that conversation go down?
mine as always is, how can we become the best that God wants us to be, right? What's the best for our life? And in any given snapshot in our lives, there are moments where we're not our best. And so I don't feel a need when God says, speak truth in love. What is the truth? The truth is who we were created to be, right? Not the very act that we're doing that someone says is sinful.
Yeah.
What's the truth about us? What's our identity? Our identities as sons and daughters.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Big T truth. How someone's acting is a small t truth because it's just a snapshot of their lives. Mm-hmm. And so I want to encourage people that I see not acting in their best way, their best life, in a way that doesn't bring their best life, and encourage them in who they are. Because you know what? The judgment side's not working. It's just not. And so I can still hold true to my faith, but also try to reach the heart of a person.
What are some self-awareness questions or perspectives that we all need to be aware of if we're being judgmental?
What are self-awareness? Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what's some of the areas of self-awareness should we pay attention to of ourselves when we become judgmental?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of times when we become judgmental, you're losing your peace. You feel like you need to have a gavel and a scepter that you rule and know, and a gavel of judgment. And there's no peace. All you see is chaos when you carry a scepter and a gavel. All you see is chaos, and you rule on that chaos according to your life experience and life filter and your belief system. And so self-awareness is, am I just hiding behind, and listen, I mean, like I said, I pastored church for 12 years. Am I hiding behind a scripture with a gavel and a scepter? Or do I really care about this person?
Yeah.
Because if I don't know this person or care about this person or don't know them, why am I getting so involved in what they should or should not do and judge them or even hate or post about them? Yeah. I see Christian friends posting about people they don't even know, judging them and how they're living their life. And I say, well, let's put everyone's life on display then.
I'll give you an example.
And I'm not a passive guy, so that's how I live my life.
Yeah. So I'm here in Dallas, and I'm doing my intake for my new doctor, and legit straight up, the office management asks me, are you male or female? I'm like, I'm male. Why would you even have to ask? We just have to ask. I said, I'm male, even if I change my mind. So,
yeah. And that's the thing. It's like there are policies in place that we'll agree and disagree with.
Yeah.
Like that person just doing his or her job.
Yeah.
So they don't get fired. And nothing changes us that we don't. It only changes what we allow in. It affects us what we let into our lives. Yeah. Everything's external. It's what we bring in. And so many Christians seem to bring in all the stuff that they don't like from other people and bring it into themselves, and they lose their peace.
Yeah.
That's supposed to surpass all understanding. They lose their peace because they're so worked up about what people are doing versus how are you treating people. And I love having this discussion because I've never seen anybody want to come to our church because I told them what I thought about their life. And then that I never just say, hey, I've never seen someone come to a relationship with God because of how I pointed out what I thought was every imperfection that they had.
Yeah.
Condemnation is not a ministry tool.
Yeah. How do you feel about all the charts and graphs declining since the 60s southward, that this is the least patriotic Americans of America and the least churched, least Bible reading situation of America in America, that people's value systems are off. And this is what I looked at because, I when I was in the Marines, I mean, it's not like I was walking on water either. There's a reason why I was married and divorced. And listen, I put it, everybody on this channel knows that I've got 5 kids, married, divorced. That's wife, girlfriend, now my now wife, who's forgiven me of my past and doesn't judge me for it. Yeah. But now we're married come February for 10 years now, and she's been amazing to me. She's been, I call it my great multiplier. I've been in relationship and just, I love everything about my wife. I've never been, my past, I'm looking at it like, yo, bro, you've been like with one woman, like legit, one woman for going on 10 years. That's crazy. And to me, I don't feel like I'm missing anything. Like I thought I'd miss out on something without Christ. Now I got like Christ, like, oh, I got it now. I got the value system. And the reason why I bring this up is because, especially in sports, especially be you, blah, 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 that type of thought process. But if our value system, and if we're getting these situations of the society splash in us individually, and we're doing us, but it's not based on anything. It's based on you competing with some guy on TikTok, you compete with some guy on social media, that comparison, versus, hey, how does Christ see you? How does God see you? And I don't think a lot of people have that basis or lack of it.
But I think to your question about the church attendance decline, I mean, that's the thing that you asked me about judgmental self-awareness. And it seems like I'm being critical. I'm really not. I'm just enjoying the conversation of when we see the Barna Group studies of church attendance going down. The question I have for everybody I come encounter that goes to church, especially pastors, I talk to pastors and leaders a lot, is what's our responsibility?
Yes.
In that. It's like so many people don't want to, they talk about the decline and take zero personal responsibility as a church because of the self-righteousness. Like, what is the church doing that's keeping people away? Mm-hmm. I mean, what is it? I mean, those are the dialogues that pastors and people need to have. Because what is it? Oh, it's just the lifestyle and all this stuff's going on. Well, back 2,000 years ago,
that was happening too.
People were getting killed and fed to the lions and tortured and enslaved and all this stuff. What did they do? Well, go read about it.
Yeah.
And it's not what we're doing. And we're seeing this decline because we're not being the answer for what people are looking for. And so self-reflection, and we'll never solve that decline until we do a little more self-reflection and honesty.
Once we do that, Joey, once we do that self-reflection and self-honesty, is there any actionable things we can do as believers to act as Christ would have us act in this craziness?
If we can start with, here's the crazy thing, if we can start with visiting orphan and widows, taking care of the poor, giving to the least of these, without expecting anything in
Bingo. I love that one.
Without asking or anything in return. Anything. Church attendance, check a box, just do that. I think those are the most actionable items that anyone can do. And at the end of the day, if nothing happens spiritually in there in regards to the person, they were loved and cared for and fed and not thirsty.
Last question I'll ask you, Joey, is how do you see the outcome of the elections coming here? Because it's coming here pretty fast, and certain swing states are, you got one party leading over the other, and I've always said, listen, man, no matter what goes on in the White House, the most important thing what goes on in your house. How do you feel what's going on with Trump and Harris and the whole parties just clashing like this in the last 4 years we've experienced?
What's funny is like, full disclosure, I can't wait for the election to be over just for the advertisements on TV to stop.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
just in that would bring more peace to my life. What's amazing is it's come down to this race. Four swing states. So there's 4 or 5 states deciding an entire election for a country, which is kind of crazy. I also think 340 million people in this country, and here we are again with the same choices, right? And you're going, and the same mudslinging, the same
Yeah.
this. And listen, if you're a Kamala supporter, you're a Trump supporter, I'm not trying to offend either one of you, but it said there are 340 million people in this country, and are these our best two?
That's right. And by the way, one wasn't even chosen. One was slot in there.
Well,
One,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So
One
it's
was
just
slid
like,
in
oh,
there.
these are best two, and it speaks to our system of how much money it takes to become president, what you have to do it. And so there's qualified men and women out there that will not run because of just what we're going, because of the gauntlet they have to run. I think though we'll have a week or two of not civil unrest, but just unrest until they decide who won the election. The losing side will appeal and sue, I'm sure, which causes more unrest. I'm hoping whoever wins this election would call, or lose this election, call for peace, just to get through it. But the outcomes of the election, I mean, I think I shared with you pre-tape, is that my biggest problem with both these candidates and with all the news reporters out there and all the interviews, of not one person asked about the national debt.
Let's
They're
talk
not
about it.
discussing the national debt and the fiscal deficits, which is the third rail of the economy, and nobody wants to talk about it because in order to fix it, there's a lot of third rail things that need to be reduced. And so no one wants to have a dialogue about it, and they just push it down the road, and that's what bothers me.
We're doing a PowerPoint talking about the national debt during COVID 2021, and we put in the PowerPoint $30 trillion. But today, the debt is $35 trillion. And we're just talking about 3 years. It went from 30 to 35 trillion. Why should, by the way, Joey, why should we care? It's not our debt, right? It's not, why should we care about it? It's our debt as a country. Why should we care about the national debt?
The trickle down. I mean, we lose credibility in the dollar. We lose credibility in the treasury market, the dollar. Then it trickles down to everything like it did in '08, commercial paper, municipalities, corporate bonds. I mean, everything kind of trickles down because a lot of the products out there, money markets, are backed by treasuries. So, just like in '08, when at Sunday night they put $750 billion into the system to save the system because the money markets were going to break their bid of $1. First time ever, which would cascade into commercial paper overnight, and companies couldn't get funded. So that's the biggest risk. Why people should worry about it, because it is, I don't know if or when it happens down the road, but it is a linchpin.
Right.
You can't just spend into eternity.
Where are we at right now in terms of ratings of U.S. securities? We've been downgraded, right? Weren't we downgraded at one point?
Double
The
A.
credit rating?
We're the bell of the ball, worldwide. People want to own our markets, dollars, treasuries, because of our taxing system, because of our ability to, gather liquidity. They trade oil in dollars, which is another liquid asset. So,
Fitch 2023, Fitch downgrades U.S. long-term ratings from AA plus to AAA. So can you explain, Joey, what happens when the U.S. Gets downgraded? What happens to the interest rates and what the splash effect, the trickle effect, happens to us?
Well, what's interesting, it happens more in corporate and municipal bonds. You get a direct effect. People go, oh, downgrade. With the U.S. Treasury, it's still the most liquid market in the world. And so people aren't going to quit coming to our markets because we're the most stable, most liquid. So even with the downgrade, we might get a pick up in rates, but it's all temporary. When the Fed starts cutting rates, they go down. We went down to almost 3.5, 4 weeks ago. Now we're back up to 4.29. It's just boom, whiplash with the bond market. And bond market's usually a foreteller of future outcomes.
Yeah, because if they can't raise enough investor capital to pay for things that the U.S. needs, that's every politician's justification now to go to you, the American taxpayer, to raise your taxes.
People are looking at 435 people plus 2 in the White House to solve their problems. And only problems, a lot of times they want to solve their own. because they just want to do their shift and get out. Now, there's public servants within that group,
Yeah.
but they don't have the power that the people have. So they'll raise taxes, and at the end of the day, we'll kick the can down the road.
And to your point, we're at right now in terms of the interest that's owed on the national debt. What was the number you articulated?
Just under $1 trillion a year now, just in interest, and and that accelerates, right? You hit that point where it keeps accelerating, to a larger percentage because where interest rates are when rolling our debt. Yeah, it becomes very serious. I don't know when that day is, but it becomes serious.
It's like, remember when I was broke before I got my financial head on straight, is I would send a payment to the credit card companies without realizing it's just paying interest or a fraction of it, but my balance either doesn't go down or it just goes up. So that's what it's like now. If our debt keeps going up and the interest payment goes up, which means that we're not paying enough to pay down the national debt, which means that the interest rate and it's compounded on top of the debt continues to be added.
One thing to kind of educate the people that are watching your podcast is like the sleight of hand that all politicians use when they talk about cutting the deficit. Everything in the budget is set to grow at a certain percentage rate every year. Like if it's $100,000 this year, it's 108 next. Well, when they cut that 108 to 106, they said they cut the budget. They didn't. They cut the growth.
Right.
They didn't cut the program or a deficit. It's just growing less fast. And so it's a sleight of hand they use. So when someone said, we're going to cut $800 billion out of this, and you're going, well, you just cut the growth rate of it.
Yeah. Because right now there's one party that says, listen, let's tax the rich. Let's get these wealthy guys or business owners. Let's get more taxes out of them, right? And hopefully they comply. And what the other party says, hey, let's reduce taxes. Let's increase the GDP, and let's increase what's taxed as a GDP. And so,
well, I think a lot of those taxes are, what they mentioned about taxing the billionaires, the wealth tax and everything is just really a campaign deal to get elected. Because if you taxed, I think the math is, if you taxed all the billionaires in the United States, it'd come out to 100% tax. It'd be $2.8 trillion. That would run our government for 7 months.
It's not enough.
So it's that, and that's not even. And I don't even speak politically on that. I speak economically on that. The math of 100% tax on all our billionaires would not only live on 7 to 8 months, but then they'd be broke and they couldn't pay all their employees.
And they come to smart advisors like you and say, hey, which country should I domicile my major corporation in so I minimize or eliminate my taxes? Because rich people they got options. They want options.
They got options. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot going on, and I think that whether it's faith, whether it's political party or whatever, I tell people, like, don't let anything steal your peace, because there's always going to be problems and issues. It's protecting your peace. Right. Because at the end of the day, if something has so much of your attention it steals your peace, then you're probably focusing too much on it, especially if you can't change it.
That's wisdom, man. That's wisdom. Well, very cool. Joy, I appreciate you gracing our podcast here, share your thoughts, your areas of wisdom, areas of finance, your areas of faith, your areas of making sure that we keep our head on straight and not let any Republican, Democrat rob of us of God's peace. So
exactly. Well, I appreciate you having me on, Matt, and listening to me.
For sure. So for those of you watching this, we're going to have all the links here of Joey Feste on. And we're wishing your practice well. We're wishing your son well. We're wishing your players well. And that being said, if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, 7 Figure Squad. Make sure you subscribe, hit like, and share this with other athletes and players you need to know, that need to know from Joey Feste. With that being said, to me again, continue to live smart, continue to love smart, and be money smart today.